checking everything else out before I spend money. Hello, everybody. We're going to build an audience, and this is Dr. Guy McPherson, and I am very pleased to have you back. And this time the graphics are great. You look terrific. You really do. It's great. Great to have you back.
It's amazing what we do with photoshopping these days, isn't it?
Stop. And where are you actually? Where are you located right now?
I'm at the Maya Mountain Lodge, where my friend Bart Mickler do interviews here in the Maya Mountains of Belize.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, we are definitely building an audience, and I would like to say hi to everyone. This is Sandy Schoelles with Environmental Coffee House, and Dr. Guy McPherson has been so nice to come back and have a conversation with me and with us, all of us. And I just want to tell you, if I have any audio issues, because I've been having a few problems, which I'm trying to work out, it will end up being the audience that leads this interview or this discussion, if I do. So all of you better be ready. And we'll start with, let's see. Somebody said we have no sound, but that doesn't mean that anybody else doesn't. So if anybody tells me they don't have sound, well, she's the only one. So, okay, everybody's hearing well. All right, guys.
She needs to turn on her speakers.
Yeah, sometimes it's as easy as that. All right, I want to start with something that I printed out. I've been doing since I talked to you last. I have been learning and reading, and I'm fully down the rabbit hole. And the learning curve never stops. And this is the stuff that makes me happy in my life, learning and doing and communicating. And so I have found my way to pursuing that life of excellence, which I like to think I always have. But being that I was in academia and human resources, it was pretty easy. But I'm going to start with this. So the well-respected climatologist, Dr. Stephen Schneider of Stanford University, famously said in a Discover magazine interview in 1988, quote, "On the one hand, as scientists, we are ethically bound to the scientific method, in effect promising to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but, which means that we must include all doubts, the caveats, the ifs, ands, and buts. On the other hand, we are not just scientists, but human beings as well. And like most people, we'd like to see the world a better place, which in this context translates into our working to reduce the risk of potentially disastrous climate change. To do that, we need to get some broad-based support to capture the public's imagination. That, of course, means getting loads of media coverage. So we have to offer up scary scenarios, make simplified dramatic statements, and make little mention of any doubts we might have. This double ethical bind we frequently find ourselves in cannot be solved by any formula. Each of us has to decide what the right balance is between being effective and being honest. I hope that means being both." So given that, Guy, and with all of the things that we've gone through recently, like the New York Magazine article, and then the reaction by Dr. Mann and all the other scientists that maybe got a little scared with that article, and we're doing a little backpedaling, let's have what you think about that statement and about scientific method and everything you do. Take it away.
That's a great statement, and it came the same year that James Hansen went before Congress and warned Congress anthropogenic or human-caused climate change. So it was a watershed year for climate. 1988. The following year, 1980, the New York director of the United Nations Environment Program, Noel Brown, was quoted in the Associated Press and therefore in almost every newspaper in the United States on June 29th, as saying we have 10 years to solve this carbon dioxide problem, as he called it. And beyond, the issue will spin out of human hands.
Okay.
That the issue of climate change will no longer be one that humans have any control over by, for example, reducing carbon dioxide emissions, but instead, planet Earth is going to take over, and we won't have it as a species anymore. That was 1989. If I'm doing my math right, that was 28 years ago. And
Yeah.
which suggests to me that we passed the point of no return at least 18 years ago, maybe sooner. But there certainly has been no change in how we have treated climate change since 1989, nor has there been any significant change since 1988, when Stephen Schneider and James Hansen both made quite profound announcements. So I think we're beyond the point at which we can do anything that will delay horrific climate change. I think that's already upon us. We're seeing people die as a result of abrupt climate change. You experienced a tornado in July. There, up until the day before yesterday, there were 3 tropical up and headed my way, and they have disorganized now because I told them this is the kind of influence I have. So they all went away. They're going to do anything except a little bit of rain here.
Goodbye.
But these are the kinds of whole new. Now we talk about rain bombs. We talk about thunderstorms. We talk about haboobs in the United States, something that never happened.
Right.
5 years ago, because it was for other continents, that sort of thing. So now we have these terms associated with abrupt climate change that were never part of our language before, and now people are dropping them like he's saying hello. So the situation has certainly gotten to the interesting stage, and I think Schneider was right. Stephen Schneider was right that we have this, as scientists, we have this dual mandate. We are to tell the truth. We are to be conservative in telling the truth. Scientists don't say until they've thought it through and reach a conclusion based in probability. So what that means is almost every time, except when we're talking about the laws of thermodynamics or gravity or something that is so well known and so studied that we don't need to put probabilities on. I can no longer hold a pen up and say, if I let go, there's some probability in the air. There's not. We know about gravity now. So the laws of thermodynamics, we put some sort of bounds on and say there's a 99% chance of this, that, or the other. And James Hansen nailed it way back. On the other hand, science is really good at something. Science is amazing. Yesterday, went out at a precise moment, put on a special pair of glasses that apparently don't apply to the President of the United States. Maybe even put on a welding mask. The sun. Or put in a piece of paper and saw an eclipse. And they knew exactly to the second when that eclipse was going to occur, where they were. How did they know that? Actually, predictions in many cases. Science actually has taught us a lot about the universe and how it operates. And it was and
all right. We have audio problems again
with great precision. Of making predictions. We know this, and it's been tested many, many times. Not, but I'll take science over.
Guy,
been rooted in religion, that sort of thing every time.
I think we're cutting
Yes.
out a little bit again with this audio, and I don't know if it's on my side or what. It's a very frustrating thing, and I worked on my computer, so if people don't hear, it could be just the connection. If I go, just stop and let us catch up and then start over, just so everybody can hear what you're saying. So continue on, because that was interesting. We can't hear
messages, because I'd like to know if somebody could.
Well, everybody out there most people are hearing. Judy said it might be your connection, not mine. But this happens with all of my international streams, and I've got to get to the bottom of this because it's very obnoxious and it doesn't help us get a good interview going. But we're going to try. We're going to try our best, and I'll tell you, I'm going to get a professional in my house to help me, so that this doesn't happen again. So, Guy, you were talking about the...
Yeah, I was talking about precision and accuracy, and that science is actually really very good at doing some things. So I think we should proceed using science as a basis of understanding the universe.
Absolutely.
And no, of course not.
All right.
Then scientists, why doesn't somebody weigh the same on the moon as they do on Earth? Oh, now we have an
Mm-hmm. Okay. You got to stop.
I think Stephen Schneider nailed it.
In the statement I read? Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to try our best to keep this audio going. One time we have great video, but now the audio has problems. But I don't know. Judy says turn off the comments. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but actually I really don't know how to turn off the comments on this software yet. So we'll do our best. So Guy, then given that, you agree with that and you feel that we, as scientists, you do have that, well, it can be an ethical dilemma sometimes. There seems to be this thing, I'm going to be unprofessional, between anthropogenic climate change, right? And then the other people that are saying, okay, it's natural, it's solar minimums, it's other things besides the CO2 we put in the atmosphere. What do you say to those people? We can't hear you.
We actually understand with great accuracy, where carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
We know before the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. All of those point to me and every other legitimate scientist as indicating that warming of the planet is human caused.
Yep, stop. Catch up.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
On the other hand, it appears that we have now hands. So long before humans showed up, there was climate change. Absolutely. There were the methane traps in Siberia that spewed methane.
Okay, we have to catch up. I don't understand why this happens. How is everybody else doing? I'm really sorry, guys. So, Guy, I think you're going to have to speak and then let it catch up to us. That's basically what I think is happening. Okay?
And I'll try to go
back to your comment because it was good.
So, yes, anthropogenic climate change is and was real. yes, increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere caused heating of the planet. And now it appears that anthropogenic climate change has triggered events that occurred in the deep past before there were humans on the planet. So that now we have triggered methane going up into the atmosphere, for example, something that occurred before humans showed up and caused additional warming of the planet. We have accelerated the process of planetary warming greatly. And now, quote, natural phenomena are starting to kick in as well. These things have happened in the past. It appears that we triggered them this time.
Yes. It's not just, natural events happening that would have happened in 1400. It's a lot more than that. Right.
And now we have triggered events that happened in the deep past and have taken the situation out of our hands, so that now no matter what we do, we can't stop the runaway.
No. I want to...
already fell off the trestle. It's plunging.
Here you go. I want to put up a comment because it's a lengthy one, but Jane, I'm going to read what you're saying. Jane says, Guy doesn't want to depress us. We've got to face this. And the sooner we come to terms with the impossibility of fixing this, the sooner we arrive at the peacefulness of acceptance. By arriving at acceptance, we can truly learn to make the most of each day instead of taking life for granted. As a hospital and hospice nurse for many years, I can tell you that it is those with a terminal illness who are near the end of their life who seem most perfectly able to throw aside the inessential elements of life. And I that's what I get from you. I don't get the Dr. Doom, but a lot of people do. So what do you have to say to our friend Jane?
That's great. I absolutely agree. That's perfect. And I've been talking along with my for a long time. We've been talking about living as if in our lives.
Are we hearing?
So I think Jane nailed it. I couldn't agree more.
Okay. Thank you, Jane. I hope everybody heard Guy on that. Of course, I'm having the difficulties, but that I think she kind of nailed it. There's also something I wanted to read about this, that somebody wrote, the general nihilistic anti-Western civilization attitude is expressed in the so-called precautionary principle. I don't know if you ever heard of this, which postulates that even if it should turn out that CO2 doesn't cause climate change, we should nevertheless implement draconian measures to stop emissions just in case of what? And that is definitely a statement from, and I'm not going to use the word, but we all know what word it is. What do you tell people like that with all the data we have?
I almost never converse with people who are in this D word camp. If the evidence that has so I don't know how to deal with people who Wyoming, I think it is in the search box. It'll take you to a 20-minute or 21-minute video presentation, where I tackle all of that denial nonsense and deal with it one piece at a time.
Very important to learn.
Right. If you're willing to go there, the evidence is all there.
Is everybody hearing? Oh, Susan can't hear. Well, now it's raining where I am, and we're having thunder and lightning, so I'm hoping it's not going to interfere. We're going to do our best, guys. And I promise that I will solve the problem, whatever it is that's happening to my audio, because we have beautiful, beautiful video. Last time Guy was here, we had horrible video and great audio. And I did audio test earlier and it was fine. So we'll just keep going on. And when I do this, Guy will stop and let us all catch up. Okay. So Guy, where do we go from that statement? Stop. Let us catch up.
For me.
Okay. You think what? You
Good
think
audio is best for me. I have a great.
You have a great voice. So you're going to have to let us catch up with that. Did everybody hear that?
I have a great face for radio.
Sorry. Yeah, you do. You look great. You do. You look great. You look rested. And I know that, you've been traveling around. So really, actually, for traveling around, you do look pretty good. Let's go. So we've covered this negative aspect of things, and we've covered the scientific method, and what I'd like to cover is again, which I covered with Kevin, was some of the conversation difficulties that a lot of us are having with people, and family or friends or whatever, that they understand climate change. These are not the deniers. These are people that understand, but have no capacity to then, converse about it, where I'm not forcing it on them. What are your thoughts on that, Guy? The conversation to have with people.
It's very.
I'm getting frustrated.
Still have different.
All right. I don't know what to do. Stop, Guy. Let us catch up. Okay, try it again. If this doesn't work, we're going to have to reschedule, because this is awful. I feel terrible. This is sad. I want to cry. Try it again. We have a lot of people watching.
I am. Even people who accept anthropogenic climate change have a very tough time coming to grips with climate change being a threat, posing a threat to the way we live, much less to our very lives. For the most part, people.
Stop. Wait. Okay, go ahead, people. I think we can.
People who accept human-caused climate change consider themselves that if we just vote the right way and we
No, this is not working. We have people watching, but they can't hear. Most people are saying that they're having problems hearing. I don't know if it's on my end.
turn off my video and then we might be able to stream the audio.
We could try. Somebody said that. We could try. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm not going to do any more interviews until I have this fixed and I know what the cause is. It is pouring right here, and we are having some pretty bad weather, but this is not the first time, and I am terribly sorry. I thought I fixed this. So, Guy, are you still with us? I think Guy might be trying to come back again. So, anyway, as you are all here, and we are talking about this, does anybody have something that you want to bring up before Guy gets back on and we try this again? Well, he's back on, but it's a visual. It's because it's a visual program. Let's just try. We'll give it another few minutes, answer some more questions, and then if this doesn't work, we're going to reschedule for when you have time, and I know you are so busy. That's what gets me. I got you, and you're so busy. Where were we? If we can hear you.
Well, if we can't do this now, if we decide this is just too difficult for our listeners now, then maybe in October when I'm touring in North America, we can work something out.
Okay. It's far away, but we can try. Now in October, I'm actually going to Carolyn Baker and Dean Spillane Walker's series in Boulder, and I know you've heard of that. You've worked with Carolyn, have you not?
Yes, and I worked with Dean as well.
I think that's going to be a good thing.
So I know them both.
Good. Have you any comments actually to say about what they're doing, as opposed to what you've done in your workshops?
I don't know enough about their work to be able to comment intelligently. Usually that wouldn't stop me, but I'm making an exception today.
Okay. Well, I will when I come back, so I might be able to teach you something. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, here's a question from Ray. What's the latest news on the methane output rates? And let's hope we can hear you.
Thank you, Ray. There's a paper that came out by Shikova and colleagues in late June of this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure the Journal of Communications, but you can find it with a quick online search.
Okay.
Further reinforcing the notion that we can expect a large release of methane from the East Siberian Arctic shelf, and that such a release of methane is highly possible at any time. So that's the latest scientific work on the topic, is from the authority on the subject, Kova, Smelatov, and their colleagues conducting expeditions on the East Siberian Arctic shelf for more. So they're the people who know, based on their latest field excursions, it appears that such a release of methane is highly likely at any time. Already, atmospheric methane is 240% higher than it was at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. So it's a runaway train, and it's not getting any better.
And no amount of, I was going to ask you this. This segues into that, the CO2, well, sort of vacuuming it out or mitigating methods I've been reading, that people are saying that there may be ways to do this, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there might be. In fact, there have been a couple of attempts that at small scale have proven successful. However, it takes a lot of energy to create that infrastructure. And all that energy means more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Possible, but I haven't seen anything that would indicate that we can do anything resembling carbon sequestration at scale that will even keep up with the increase every year that we're adding to the atmosphere, much less digging away at the principle itself. We can't even tackle the interest at this point.
I don't know if anybody heard that answer. How about
so we'll just have to assure them that it was a good one.
Okay. Judith, it says any relation between fires in North America and methane leakage from fracking? That's an interesting one.
Well, it's pretty hard to say. Certainly the methane released from fracking and the methane released from industrial agriculture, including animal agriculture, are contributing to warming. I don't know how anybody could deny that at this point.
Right.
Has the single factor of methane released from fracking contributed significantly to the wildfires in North America today? That's pretty difficult to make that say with great certainty that that's what caused it. I have no doubt it's a contributor, but whether it's a leading cause or not, We don't know.
No, we don't. And we may not know until they blow up underneath Antarctica anyway, which that would be, I don't know. I do know that Kevin just had a comment that said, Dar Jamel, staff reporter from Truth Out, has just returned from Barrow in Alaska. He should be reporting on the methane issue any day now at Truth Out. So we can look forward to some of that firsthand information. And somebody also said, it seems like your audio is a little bit better. I shut every single thing off except for this. So let's hope let's hope we're a go. Okay, somebody did ask me another question, and I know, my interview style when it's live like this is, I really want to bring the audience in with us because it's a discussion and they are part of it. That's why we're here, and I really like doing this way. Somebody did have a question that has to do with your, and I'm looking for it, your site, your Nature Bats Last. And I'm wondering if I can't find it, they were alluding to the fact that Nature Bats Last is going somewhere.
I will be taking a break for sure, and almost certainly reducing the magnitude of my work. I have posted hundreds, verging on 1,000 posts at Nature Bats Last over the course of the last 10 years. As nearly as I can tell, I haven't moved the needle one bit. So I probably will reduce the amount of writing. E.B. White, the writer, pointed out that writing is hard work and bad for the health. That's a direct quote. So I will be reducing the writing I do. Mm-hmm. I will be the next episode of my radio show, Nature Bats Last Radio, will be the last episode. Conversation with Dar Jamel during that episode, September.
Is that with Corey Morningstar? She won't be with you anymore?
Nope. Corey Morningstar has ended her tenure as a co-host. So I'll be doing this final episode, well, sort of by myself. I'll be doing, with me here in Belize, will be sometime co-host and sometime guest host, and my partner, Pauline Schneider. There will be a couple of friends, one who has been interviewed on the show a few times, Paul Marcotte, and a friend we haven't met yet, Sarah Law, who will be coming from Canada to pay a visit to us here, and Dar will be on the line. So it should be a raucous conversation.
Great. I'm always up for a trip. I'm always over committing myself.
And as with this broadcast, it'll be heavily oriented towards the listeners. So there will be lots of opportunity for people to call in. It will be the last scheduled episode and likely the last episode.
Okay. Well, somebody did have a question. Are you afraid of traveling? Does it have anything to do with traveling? And no, it's really serious because now the mainstream media was talking about airplanes and turbulence and climate change. I saw it.
Listen, Sandy and listeners, I know I'm going to die. I actually know I'm going to die. I've accepted it as being something that will occur in the very near future. I'm living as if it will occur by October 1st of this year. That's how I'm living. I'm living with death in mind. I'm living with urgency. I'm not going to stop flying because of any reason. I'm not going to stop going on tour because I don't have any fear in my life. Certainly not. I'm not afraid of the deep state. I've been getting death threats for 15 years at least. That doesn't bother me. I know that people are paying attention if they're sending me death threats. When people send me death threats, I send them my address.
I like that. Well, you know what? That's good. You have some moxie there, I'll tell you that. And you believe in your message. And a lot of us do. And, you know, I think the people that want to make it that you're sending a negative message sometimes are wrong in that. Susan, you do want us all to stay home and wait for death and pray to be saved. We have to do things to save ourselves, at least try to have hope and not just curl up and die. And of course, Guy is not saying that. Guy, could you answer to Susan to make her feel a little bit better about all this?
No, I'm encouraging people to live, not to die. That's my whole message, in fact, is that life is short. Passionately pursue a life of excellence, whatever that means to you. But I suspect for most people, it does not mean curling up in a ball and anticipating their death.
Absolutely not. Not for me. And I have wrestled with this. I think my metamorphosis has been right online for the last 9 months. And I feel a lot of us are not frightened. A lot of us are coming to terms with the fact that we're born knowing we're going to die. I think a lot of it is those of us with children and those of us that love animals. That's the pain we feel. The pain we feel that we cannot prevent, or we may not even be able to communicate to our children properly as what, to say that they'll listen. That's a one I wrestle with, and probably a lot of others do.
Yeah, and I can't even begin to imagine. I'm not a parent myself. I made that decision a long time ago. So I can barely even identify with what you're going through.
Well, it's something that I'm working out and we're working on. And Susan, after listening to you guys, okay, Susan, we need to maybe talk off this. And if you would like to write to myself or Guy, I think that maybe you and I could have a discussion about what you're saying, because it's over this discussion. It's too much. And I think it's something in your heart that we could help you with.
I saw the comment.
Okay.
We've known since we were maybe 12 years old that we were going to die. Some people earlier, some people later in life. But by the time you get to be our age, I'm 57. Mm-hmm. I think everybody knows that they're going to die. That it's not just a concept that applies to other people, but it also applies to my life. I've known this for a long time. I have only recently, like within the last 15 years, used that knowledge to live with urgency. I encourage people to live with urgency because we don't know the day we're going to die. We know everybody dies, but we don't know when we're going to die. Louis C.K., the stand-up comic and writer and social critic and so on, great little bit. You don't know with certainty when you're going to die. The best you can do is, this is probably it. Right? So you feel like you're going to die. This is probably it. But you don't know for sure. Edward Abbey in 1989 thought he was going to die. So he had his friends take him out in his sleeping bag in his backyard. And he lay out there and he thought, this is probably it. But it wasn't. And so an hour or two later, he's calling for him back inside, and it's clear that I'm not going to die. So we don't know with certainty. All we know with certainty is that we are going to die. We don't come with an expiration date.
No, we certainly don't. And Susan, I hope that helped you a little bit. We could definitely do more on that topic. I will personally say that since all of this started, again, every day is special. Every day is lived with excellence. Every day is something I'm learning, no matter how tough it is. And I've had the worst. I can't deal with a motorcycle accident, a disabled husband, and a tornado in the same week. And a $60,000 helicopter bill. So it's all how we take it in. And there's help for everybody. And I highly recommend Carolyn Baker for that type of help or reading. She is really good at this. So Susan, if you look up Carolyn Baker, she may be able to be your path towards living every day to the fullest. Would you agree with me, Guy?
You know, I think it's important to bear in mind here that although we were given a death sentence at birth, that was for us to roll over and die. That we've known since we were maybe 12 years old that we were going to die. That wasn't sufficient reason to roll over and die. So I don't understand why my message that the human condition is shorter than we expected. I don't understand why that message makes people want to roll over and die. I have no desire to roll over and die just because I know that at some point in the very near future, perhaps as early as October of this year, I'm going to die. That doesn't make me want to go out and buy a gun and shoot myself. It makes me want to live even more, to live even. It allows me to throw off the shackles that tell me different things. Nonsense. I can do all kinds of things now that I'm liberated from the dominant paradigm that tells me I can't do those things.
Tell us a little bit more about that dominant paradigm.
This is the message that we get whispered in our ear every day. The idea that we can have infinite growth on a finite planet. Of course, that doesn't make any sense, so nobody would say it out loud. We just assume it away. We assume it every time we open a bank account at a bank with a positive interest rate. That's what that means. Infinite growth on a finite planet. And there are lots of other myths associated with this culture. Lies My Culture Told Me is the name of my essay in which I wrote about this. So there are, in addition to the infinite growth paradigm that we all think would be wonderful and we act as if that's the way the world is going to work for us, there's the notion that more is better. More is better. More of what? We don't even ask that. We just assume that more is better. We assume that because we have smartphones, the world is better today than it was 20 years ago.
Right.
That we don't have to have a phone and stand next to it, and actually dial the numbers. So therefore, our lives are better. I'm not so sure about that. When you actually start to question some of these assumptions, you see that there's not a lot there. Every civilization so far has been characterized by endemic racism, endemic misogyny, endemic monetary disparity leading to poverty. We don't question any aspect of civilization, even though it includes those things. Why not? Why don't we ask those questions? Why don't we start questioning everything about this set of living arrangements? The expectations of others have become the bars we use to reinforce the cage we're in. And so one of the ways we can throw off those shackles is by not using the expectations of others to dictate how we're going to live.
That's not always easy. We grew up with that.
Of course it's not. It's the dominant culture screaming in our ear. That's what I mean by the dominant culture. There are all these expectations that people pile onto, so they don't even say them out loud. But there's the expectation that everybody goes to school, and then everybody goes to more school, and then everybody goes to college, and sometimes they go to more school, and they get married, and they have 2.5 children, and they save for retirement until they're 65 or 70 years old, at which point they're not in good enough shape to travel the world like they think they wanted to when they were in their 20s. Wait just a minute. Let's travel the world when we're in our 20s. Let's not wait until we're old and broken down. We can't even get out of bed anymore.
That is what I'm talking with my 28-year-old about. She has a plan. She wants no children, and she's going to sell her house, invest it, get the money, and travel. And I'm encouraging her to do that because the conversation for the millennials is a very different one. That's where I wrestle. That is where I wrestle in communicating with the younger people. And Kevin and I had just that discussion the other night with lousy audio, but we did it. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. We segue into that on that conversation with the younger people.
You know, when I speak to millennial age people, it's clear that they all get it right away. They know that the infinite growth paradigm is ridiculous. They've never heard it stated that way, but they don't have to know that it's ludicrous. They know that they've been dumped on by previous generations. They know that, you know, James Hansen's latest paper is titled something like Young People's Burden. And he says they're going to have to figure out how to fix this. So he basically implicitly acknowledges that his generation and mine and yours totally screwed the planet. And that the young people are going to have to fix this for us. That is absolutely insane. To dump that responsibility on an entire generation that had nothing to do with the mess we made.
No, we did.
That's nonsense. That's horrible. So I encourage, you know, I saw a couple of months ago, I saw a sign here at the Belize City Airport advertising some vacation company or something. I don't know what. And it said, there are 7 days in the week, and someday is not one of them. But that's the day I hear all the time that people are going to start doing things.
Someday.
Right? Someday. Someday I'm going to go do this. Someday.
But the reality is not everybody can afford to do things. And what I say is you do what is in your parameter of what you can afford. If your trip is to a state park in your county more often that has beauty, then that is what you can do. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be something out of the realm of affordability. I can't afford to go all over. Absolutely.
There's beauty everywhere, Sandy. There's beauty here. There's beauty in the Southwest where I lived for nearly 30 years. There's beauty in northern Idaho where I grew up. And, you know, when I was a kid, we wouldn't even think about getting in the car or getting in a plane or getting in a bus and going to find the beauty. We just walk outside. It's right there.
Get back to that.
Let me show you what's right here.
Okay, let me put it on a big screen. If I could, I would show you what's outside my house.
This is the jungle in my backyard.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful that you were able to do this.
I don't, you know, my point is that none of us has to go a long way to experience what Edward Abbey called the nirvana of now.
Right. The nirvana of
we
now.
Just need to be fully present and appreciate what we have.
Well, let's see. Susan's like, stuff like that won't put the methane back in the ground or unpollute the seas. Of course it won't, Susan. But you know what? We are given what we are given. It is what it is. It's acceptance that we have to have. It's acceptance. And it is harder for a lot of us. But like Kai said, and like I do, I go outside every day. No matter what, if I look, my house looks like a logging camp right now because of the trees that were down. I don't know. I think some of us just have an inherent, an inherent negativity, and it's very hard. And I'm not putting Susan down because Susan's feelings for Susan are valid. But other people don't feel that way that are here with us. Other people are feeling like Donald. Donald says yes, and there's a great beauty by simply living in the present moment, and the answer is inward. So, Donald, you're there. You're getting it. You're getting what has to be done.
I couldn't agree more. And Susan, I have never, ever, nor would I ever propose inaction. I propose right action, which means unpolluting the seas, which means cleaning up our mess instead of dumping it on the millennial generation. Yes, let's do all those things. And let's appreciate what we have right here, right now.
You know what, Guy? Here's another thing about activism, and I encourage the younger generation to continue their activism and continue the fight and continue against pipelines and continue to try to get better people in their local government to make a change and to make a difference. Because, as Guy says, he doesn't say specifically how long we have, and you have to stay working for those things. There's no reason not to. Continue on the path of activism if that is what is in your heart and makes you feel good. We want clean water. We want clean air. Correct? We don't want pollution.
I'm frequently accused of promoting inaction. I've never done that. Frequently I'm interviewed by people who have a radio show rooted in their own activism. And they tell me every time, it took me a long time to decide to interview you, because I hear all the time that you think activism is ridiculous or whatever. And of course, I've never said that. So these notions get projected onto me and onto my message, regardless of what I actually say. Activists have a difficult time because the whole notion of activism is that our activism will make a difference. And it will. And in all likelihood, it won't be enough to prevent runaway climate change.
But in the short time, right. So what? In the short time, it may make a huge difference. And what Kevin and I were talking about the other day was not the specific final outcome, but the road there. How you do it. What you do every day. Correct?
Yes, and this is the notion of what a Buddhist would call right action. I'm not a Buddhist, but taking right action rooted in right thoughts and so on is an appropriate strategy. And not being attached to the outcome is also important here, because I've been teaching a certain way. I've been suggesting, and sometimes coming right out and saying, that I don't think having ed in it is a good idea. If I was attached to the outcome, then I would be devastated upon finding out that every single one of my students had children. That's not my burden. I look at what's going on today. I project into the future. I say having children is not going to make any significant problem any better. But I'm not going to crawl into your bedroom and prevent you as one of my students from having sex, right? So there are things that I don't have control over here. So we can take actions, and I'm a huge fan, but that doesn't mean that we have to be attached to the outcome, because if we are, we're going to be miserable. We're going to be miserable. If I was attached to the outcome of none of my students having kids, I'd be devastated, because there are thousands of them now. As nearly as I can tell, they all had kids. I'd feel like an abject failure for my entire life if I were to judge myself based on how my students act.
And that's another word, judge yourself. That's something that took me over 40 years to stop doing. And I think that really, that is huge. Stop judging yourself. Just do what you want to do to make you happy in the interim. And Susan says, thank you, Guy. That is what we wanted to hear. Well, Susan, I hope that this was valuable for you, because you're part of the conversation. And, you know, everybody is valid and everybody's part of the conversation. In fact, I'm going to put up another person. Her name is Barb, and I know her personally. Barb says, we do have to clean up the pollution and also stop using oil anyhow. I'm not going to buy into the gloom and doom. I asked this guy questions in the past, and he has no clue to what space weather is and how it affects Earth weather. Each time he's asked about as such, he proves it. Like the glaciers have to do with the Earth magnetosphere. That is what he said last time. Okay, let's give Guy the ability to talk about this himself. This, which is Barbara's thing.
I'm not going to comment on something I know nothing about. We know a lot about anthropogenic climate change.
Now we lost you a little bit.
We know a lot about the stability of Earth's climate over the last 2 billion years. Okay. That's what I talk about. Space weather? I don't think it. I don't know anything about that, but as near as I can tell, it's having a negligible impact on climate today. I don't need to bring that into my conversation. I also don't know a lot about, say, particle physics. So I don't talk about particle physics. I don't know a lot about psychotherapy. So I don't spend a lot of time doing psychotherapy. I talk about what I do know about, and I point out the mechanism by which the climate is changing. I point out the magnitude by which it has changed and is likely to change in the future. I point out that our species, like all others, depends upon habitat for our survival. I point out approximately when we came into being as a species and when we're likely to exit the planetary stage as a species. And I talk about those things because I know about those things, because I've studied them at great depth. That doesn't mean I know a lot about everything.
Let's catch up. Okay. All right. Try again.
So I talk about what
basically,
I know. I don't speak from a position of ignorance.
All right. We're having a little bit of sound problem again, but let's move on, because I don't think that Barb, it's okay. I'm glad you asked. Guy gave an answer, and there's, that's what I can do. But he gave his answer, and we're going to go on from there. Okay. So, there is controversy in all those different things. And we talked about this last time, so I'm not going to go into geoengineering. I'm not going to go into all of those things. This is a much more humanistic conversation that we're having, because that's where I'm at right now with the wrestling and not communicating where I'm throwing what I think down people's throats, which is not how I do it at all. It's just the overall communication you were talking about.
Right? I don't see any point in trying to jam this down people's throats. The information is readily available. If you want access to it, you'll go find it.
Oh, here we go again.
If you don't want access to it, fine. But I can't. I can lead the proverbial person to knowledge, but I can't make him think.
I can't hear. I'm looking. Okay, I'm looking to see if nobody said anything about not hearing. So it could have just been me. And Sandra says, "Thank you, Guy." All right, we've gone through a good bit of information talking about communicating and Guy's travels, which I can put up where he'll be. Guy, why don't we go now to let's go back to that whole younger people thing, the millennial thing and all. What do you say to the kids that are looking and saying, well, should we go to school? Should we take out a $70,000 student loan? Should we do all this? What do we do there? And I'm grasping for these answers to these kids because I talk to a lot of millennials also.
Well, there is no should. Not in my life, not anymore. There's no should. That's the dominant paradigm whispering in your ear, telling you what you need to do. There is no should. Do what you love. Do it well. You don't want to go to school? Don't go to school. Find something that you're good at. Do that. If you can make money at it, that's awesome. If you cannot lose money at it, that's even better.
Kevin said, work with your hands. Learn to work with your hands, that in the future, it's going to be a very important thing to have those vocational skills, the technical skills, but not IT. More so things that, even being a ham radio operator, but things like that, that will get you and get us through any kind of maybe an abrupt climate change event that brings us to the other side, and we're still here when we wake up. Those kinds of skills. I'm sure you agree with Kevin there.
Absolutely. I've written this for years. that I believe every high school student, when they graduate, should know how to fix their leaky toilet, should know how to hang a door properly, should know how to do all these things around the house so that they don't need to call somebody who's going to charge them $120 an hour to do something that 15 minutes in your 11th grade in high school. And so I think we've been doing education incorrectly for a long time in the United States and by extension throughout the rest of the world. I wish I had spent a lot more of my time working with my hands so that I was more capable at this point in my life. Because I'm all in my head. That's what scientists do. And so when I went to the homestead in New Mexico and it came time to milk goats and take care of small animals and build structures, I was at a loss. I could barely distinguish between a zucchini and a screwdriver. And I wish I'd had that sort of experience when I was in high school.
Well,
so it was
go ahead. So there we were. You were talking about your experience or your non-experience with working with your hands and guiding. Susan said something interesting to me, and I don't know if I'm going to answer because she says you take what scientists says and confuse it with your own opinions. I don't feel that I do that. I think I take it, I try to extrapolate the best from what I understand. So I think a lot of us do that, Susan. So I don't know where that was, and it certainly isn't defensive on my part.
There's a difference between evidence and opinion, right? And in the United States and throughout the entire culture, for that matter, it's a celebrity culture for the most part. It's not a culture that knows how to evaluate evidence. So if you had the rational scientific that allows you to evaluate evidence, then what are you left with? You're left with turning to so-called authorities to get their opinion, and then you're nowhere. Who do you turn to? Lady Gaga for you the best information about climate change? No, but I also went to school, and everything what I was taught was the scientific method with my undergrad and my graduate degree. So I believe in the scientific method, and I take what I'm learning from all of you, Guy and Paul, all of the scientists that I have been reading. And okay, maybe I formulate some opinions. I'm human, but I'm in such a learning curve that I think a lot of us are, that we really can't make it as an opinion as like, okay, this is the way it is, unless we have that scientific fact behind us. Okay, let's see. What's Kat say? Kat says a lot of people want to say Guy's message is negative, but it has been the exact opposite for me. I have made many positive changes in my life, all inspired from what I learned from Guy about abrupt climate change. And I have to tell you, Kat is on my team, and she has been a find of a lifetime. Thank you, Kat. Guy, what do you say to that, to people that, actually then have found the meaning and the good and the positive? Thank you, Kat. I think my message has been a long time. The notion of living with urgency and pursuing excellence in a culture of mediocrity, pursuing love in a culture of indifference. I don't think any of that is such a bad idea. Thank you, Kat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she's an amazing person, and I have seen that growth, and that I think is really what's important, is that through all of the scientists that we bring on to Environmental Coffee House and publish the articles, is that we have growth, and that we are able to make it to the next day, and that we do it with excellence, as you say, striving for that excellence, and maybe making that difference. And that's why I applaud all of the young people that are out there doing the frontline work of activism, because I think it's important every day. That's how I feel. That's not confusing science. That's just a real feeling. Marcia says, Guy, what do you think of Project Drawdown? First book on climate change to hit the New York Times bestseller list. It's a good one. Can't hear you. Can you see it, Guy? Wait. Can't hear you. I don't know if Guy heard it or Guy saw it. Have not read the book? No, we lost him. I'm going to have to do it again. We lost your audio. No sound. Okay. Hold on. No sound. No sound on your end. I don't know what to do. Let's wait and see if it comes back. Guy, no sound. If you can hear me, Guy, why don't you go back out and try to come in again for the sound? Okay, he'll do that. All right, everybody. While we are waiting for the sound to come back, I think this has been really a good conversation. It's been interesting, and it's not your typical conversation where we just ask for all the same information. And I like this, and I really appreciate all of you, everybody, that has input. And Barb, I hope that you will, at least take it for what it is. Okay, guys, back. All right,
I'm back and I can hear you.
All right, let's go back to Marcia's question, because we didn't hear your answer. And that was, did you read the book Project Drawdown?
I have not read Paul Hawken's latest book, Project Drawdown, but I should point out here that we do not have the technology for carbon capture and resembling the scale that we're putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. I should also point out that we've known for nearly a decade now that civilization itself is a heat engine. So I assume Paul Hawken is talking in his book about using itself. Carbon dioxide itself is a heat engine. That sounds like a bad idea to me. So I think somebody's missing the point here. I think Paul Hawken made the New York Times bestseller list exactly because he promotes civilization. He promotes this set of living arrangements as a solution. And I think that's pure fantasy. And we've known this for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That's good. And I have Dennis. Dennis says, what is Guy thinking of all the corporate scientists who are lobbying Congress and so on? Dennis, that's a good question. Dennis is from Uphill Media, which is our YouTube channel, which is phenomenal. If you get a chance to ever listen to Uphill, Guy, I suggest it. So that's Dennis's question. And I'll put it up again.
Yeah, again, based on Tim Garrett's work, rooted in the laws of thermodynamics, not the strong suggestions of thermodynamics, but the actual laws of thermodynamics. Using civilization to try to overcome a predicament.
Okay.
Seems
hearing problem. I don't know what's going on again. We were so good. We were hearing you for a good part of this. Can you try to say what you were saying again so Dennis can hear the answer? If he didn't.
A commercial for a television show. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. We've known since Tim Garrett.
Oh, it's happening again.
Right. Civilization is a heat engine. Corporate scientists, lobbyists, they're all working within civilization.
Okay. Now here's another one. Dwayne says, As with any climate change, it can be hotter in some places and colder in others. Weather is not climate. Someone besides Guy needs to learn the science. Okay, let's talk about that one. That's an interesting one. Thanks, Dwayne.
No, that's right. And so when
Oh, I want to hear you.
James Inhofe goes and throws a snowball, quote, evidence global warming, nonsense.
We're having difficulties. Technical difficulties. Can everybody hear his answer?
Climate.
Cliff says it's the weather. Could be the weather. We were doing really well there. We can't hear you, Guy.
We call it climate.
Oh.
Because
couldn't hear you. I don't know what's going on now.
I haven't.
It's
I'm
really
yelling as loud
choppy.
as I can.
Oh, it's not yelling. It's you know what it is? It's the audio going through the ionosphere with the little particulate matter that gets in the way. Actually, I started an interview with a fellow, Trevor Andrew, who he's in British Columbia. And we had started our interview and you could see the fire behind him. You could see the smoke. And it started out okay, but I do think that the particulate matter in the smoke actually interferes with this, with this mode of communication. But I don't have that today. I have some bad weather, but it passed. I don't know what's on your side. It looked nice there. And Verda says, kudos for all your efforts. Well, I tried. But before I do anything like this again, I'm definitely going to work on audio. Because it can't all be my guests. Let's see, Guy. Try again. You want to try again, Guy? Because I think if we can't hear you, we're going to probably have to say goodbye. Can you hear me? Oh my gosh, everybody. I'm sorry. No, Scott, actually, Barb is not paid by Koch Industries. She's just a person with ideas just like everybody else. All right. Now we can hear you, Guy. Do you have anything you want to say before we can't hear you? Oh, it's not happening. It's not working, but hey, we tried our best. Oh, we did try our best. It worked. When Guy went out and came back in, it did come back better. But if you want to try it one more time, going out and in, one more time. If not, we're going to say goodbye for today. We're going to do this again in October. If everybody agrees. What do you think, Guy? You want to try to come back out and come in once again so you can say your parting? Give us your parting shot. Since we can't hear you.
Thank you.
Oh, we heard you. All right. Well, I'm sorry, everybody.
Sorry.
Yes. When I have everything fixed and there's not a problem with audio and I figure out why AT&T says I have good speed and that everything's all right. I don't know. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to say? At least he can read it before we say goodbye. Thanks for efforts. Okay, well, we tried. Thank you, Lila, for being here. And thank you for everybody. And Guy, while you can say it, quickly get it in. All right. We're going to have to say goodbye. Okay. Well, I think we're just going to say goodbye for today. We tried our hardest. It's very, very, very frustrating to have all these technical difficulties. And Darlene says, thank you so much for addressing the situation we are all involved in. You rocked my world, woke me up with your interview of Kevin. Wow. Thank you, Darlene. Well, okay. That's a good thing to hear. I don't want anybody to go away thinking that, Barb is a terrible person, because she's not. She's actually, I know her. She's a personal friend, and she has her feelings. She says, I am right, then. You are also in trouble. I hope I am wrong, and that cold is coming due to solar shutdown. That's a whole different theory, and that's just something that she's learned. But I preach civility and don't want anybody to put anybody else down for their feelings. That's not what we're about at Environmental Coffee House. But I want to thank you all for coming. I think we've lost Guy, unfortunately, and this is what happens in international live streams. But you can bet I'm paying a fortune for this, and I'm going to find out why this happens. So I will end the day and say, everybody, like I always do, peace. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was good while we had it. All right. Thank you, everybody. And Darlene says, so happy to see the follow-up. Well, Guy is not always follow-up. He's more like the guy. But we'll have a lot more people on. So thanks, everybody. I'll let you go for the day. I'm going to put this on YouTube. And if I had editing skills, I would try my best. And I'm sorry that there were some people that were negative, but we do our best. And that's what we do. Environmental Coffee House will bring you the voices throughout the environmental continuum. Just wait. I may have the notorious climate denier, Roberts, the guy that writes for American Thinker. I've been trying to get him. So take it as you want. Have a positive, beautiful day. Peace. And thanks for being here. Bye, everybody.